I'm super hyped to be with an amazing woman. Her name is Sarah Flint. She is the creative director and executive chairman of Sarah Flint. I love that. Sarah launched her eponymous footwear collection in 2013 out of Sarah's frustration that women had to choose between feeling good in their shoes and looking great in them. I own a few pair of Sarah Flints, and I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome to the Omi Show, Sarah.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you. I'm excited to be here.
Here you are dealing with what all women out there deal with, even buying some shoes that are designer, still feeling like, oh my God, my feet, I might look good, but my feet are killing me.
Yep.
Where did this journey start?
Yeah, I mean, and it did sort of start just there. I would save up for designer shoes, and then I would end up taking them to a cobbler and having the toe box stretched and, extra padding put in, and I'd get rubber put on the bottom because, designer shoes all have these beautiful leather bottoms, which look luxurious and rich, but they're slippery and they're not, they don't have that extra sort of cushion and bounce. And so it just seemed insane to me that you would, spend $800 on a pair of shoes and then have to, spend additional money and time altering them to make them actually fit and feel good.
Wow. Okay. So starting with the notion, dream, inkling, gut feeling, this needs to happen, right? Yeah. I'm going through this. There has to be multiple women out there that are going through this. Walk me through some of the practical steps. Yeah. Right. So
I guess, it started even, being a little girl, being obsessed with shoes in general, trying to wear my patent leather tap shoes to school because they were, had that little heel, made a click sound, so much prettier than the sneakers my mom had bought me. And, I was always really into art, painting and drawing, and, worked in retail all through high school, and then moved to New York to go to fashion design school, to the Fashion Institute of Technology. Where I studied design, but that was where I kind of, had this epiphany around making the types of shoes that women could actually live their lives in and were beautiful and luxurious. And so from there, I actually moved to Italy to study manufacturing. So I went to school alongside factory workers to learn about the engineering that goes into shoe design. And I definitely fell in love with Italian manufacturing, we're still today, all of our product is made in Italy. It's just such an incredible sort of handcraft that's handed down from generations. Every person within the factory, it's amazing. Their father did that and their father's father did that. And they take such pride in what they do. And it's very cool to see because, each person has such a specific part of the job that they do. A shoe probably touches, 60 plus pairs of hands in its life cycle of being created, because one guy, literally just puts the heel on the shoe, and another guy, shapes the outsole, and then there's someone who does the stitching. So it really is just such an art and so incredibly involved. But I was able to, not easy as I was 25 when I started the business. I was 23 when I started, going over and trying to meet with factories, and not easy to break into those top luxury factories. But one of my teachers had been a pattern maker at one of these top factories, and he was able to get me in there for my first season, with a very small collection. And from there we grew and faster and slower at different periods. We started as a wholesale business. So we sold to stores like Barney's New York and Bloomingdale's. And I thought, okay, every young designer dreams of getting into Barney's New York. Then you've arrived and everything will be great. And, we had all these celebrities wearing the shoes, which was so cool. But it was still incredibly challenging. And, as a young designer and not, their top vendor, you kind of get pushed around a lot. And so, and at the time, we launched in fall 2013, and, the subsequent years were challenging years for department stores. So as you can imagine, even when we had a season with great sell-through, we couldn't get reorders because the stores didn't have the budget to place a reorder. And so, at a certain point, I started to feel like, well, I'm pinning my business to someone else's business that's not a growing business. And so this just doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, it was kind of an internet revolution happening and all of these direct to consumer brands popping up. So did something kind of nutty and actually canceled orders to all of my wholesale suppliers, and transitioned to direct
Wow.
to consumer, which has been, that was 2017. And it's been a, wild ride since there. But we've grown tremendously and now have, our own stores, which is really exciting. And COVID was a challenging period, but it's great to see people out again and shopping and dressing up. And
we can't wait for it. Like, I'm so excited. Like, we're so excited to be able to dress up again, because those years is like, it took a whole year out of our life. Like, I have one of my board members who she wears nothing but heels everywhere that she goes. I don't even know how she does it. Even like walking in Georgetown, like, how are you? I don't even understand, but it's just how she goes. And there's people out there, I'm sure people listening, who are those people as well. Talk to me a little bit about access to capital, right? Like, what does it take to start up a shoe brand? What has that journey been like for you? Did you get like venture capital? Did you just, have maybe like family and friends, or like, and then start to make money? What was your access to capital journey like?
Initially, it was, friends and family, and then started going out to sort of, more institutional investors, a lot of family offices, female run VC funds have been really great. The challenge for me has not been being a female founder. It's been creating a female product, I would say, that isn't necessarily understood by a male investor, which the large, institutional investors usually are, as better than anyone, majority male. And so, when we moved to direct to consumer, we had to go out and raise capital. And I think I was quite naive about, our ability to sort of do it. And because there were a lot of, VC funds that were funding kind of like traditional DTC type of brands that were making, mattresses or eyeglasses or things like that. But when it came to sort of a more fashion product, there was definitely less understanding. And even if we would find that one female partner that was, wanted to take a look at it and got it, she would often say to us, oh, like, I love this, but like, I can't take this into my partner's meeting on Monday because nobody's going to get it. And so, I would say it was a frustrating process for sure, in the beginning.
It's frustrating to hear. I think that like I spent a lot of times listening to founders, in my journey of raising funding, but it's still like listening to founders and still saying, even today, it's 2022 and we still got men who don't understand feet. Who don't, men who like, oh no, my hair doesn't do that, so your hair can't possibly do that. My feet doesn't need that, so your feet. I mean, which also though, male designer shoes are also uncomfortable, but I just think it's so interesting. And so, okay, here you are, right? Like, you have this awesome brand, you're in wholesale, and you made the decision to go D2C.
Yeah.
I am wondering, from a branding standpoint, like how, right? Like, because when you're in the stores, you're in the stores, and maybe people like, oh, I'm gonna go get they see the name in the shoe, they know it's you, but for whatever reason, they don't connect it to like shoe outside of this store. I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, so what type of branding things did you have to do to really go to make that pivot?
Yeah. So, we'd always had our website, but we hadn't really done any digital marketing before this transition. So we sort of turned on the digital marketing in a modest and more cost-effective way. I will say we also have a tremendous celebrity following, and that was really, really helpful. And so it allowed us to spend a lot less than, we thought that we would have to get the eyeballs on the brand. And typically for direct-to-consumer brands, you have to pay a lot to get into the, you have to advertise with Vogue and Harper's and all of these places to get them to write about you. But because we had this kind of, had come from the shelves of Barney's and places like that, we were able to just get a lot of like, earned media, which was really, really helpful. And
Oh,
then,
that's awesome.
as that was, it was a tremendous growth that year that we switched because we'd sort of done none of this. And then after that, we started looking at, well, what are the other ways that we can reach our customers? We started this brand ambassador program, which I might have spoken to you about before, but essentially we started recruiting kind of like top customers and tastemakers to promote the brand in exchange for shoes. And these weren't like, like you could call them micro influencers, but these aren't the micro influencers that you think of that are working with a ton of brands. These were lawyers and investment bankers and designers and event planners. And essentially they have a discount code that they can share with their, friends and their network. And for, every 5 new customers they recruit, they get a pair of Sarah Flint shoes. And so that's been a big way of sort of getting the word out there. I think, one of my big concerns was because we are so much about fit, when you go into a store and you can try it on, you can see that, and it, the shoe sort of sells itself. But when it's online, we can say it's, a great fit and, but it still looks like a killer stiletto. So you don't really know that. So you kind of need that person you trust in your life to say, hey, this may look like a killer stiletto, but it's actually incredibly comfortable. And I wear them, all day long, and the quality is amazing and all of that. So we've had a lot of success with kind of, figuring out a way to kind of generate that organic conversation around the product. Atlanta opens Black Friday. Which we're super excited about. We're going to be in the shops at Buckhead. And we have Dallas open and Nashville as well. And we're hoping to open quite a few more next year. So we love, love, love retail.
So no New York, no LA, no Georgetown, no, like what didn't, so that really leads into my question. What dictates where you open a store?
Yeah. So we look at we basically have a list of like, our top 15 markets that we're constantly looking at real estate for and trying to find the right thing, the right lease. And so a little bit it's chance in terms of finding the right lease, but we have also, you made reference that we have a lot of Southern stores now and, not as many coastal. And I will say that during COVID, our business really grew in the South, maybe areas that were a little bit more open. And a little bit more, whether it should be or not, feeling COVID resistant. We had a pop-up in New York during Omicron. And when Omicron first hit, and then we also had one in Dallas. And I remember it was like, you could hear a pin drop in the New York store. And then I went to Dallas and it was like, woo, it's a party, no masks, no going to galas every night. So it definitely, it's a different mentality that we've seen, in the South.
Okay, so I have a question about luxury goods, right? Because you jumped in to the business right at the luxury good mark, right? And continue to thrive there. What dictates that something is a luxury good? All right, because I think that's like an interesting question that people out there may be thinking, right? Is it just the price point? Is it just the placement? Is it actually the materials? Is it actually how it's made? Like what dictates that something is considered a luxury good versus like a mid-level product?
So I have this debate with people, like, and particularly board members and investors all the time, because so when we transitioned to direct to consumer, we changed our pricing structure. When we sold at wholesale, we had to charge, we had that additional 50% markup. So we had to charge, $800 for a pair of shoes. And then when we moved to direct to consumer, we were able to pass some of that savings along to the customer. But, for me, I think a luxury product it's about the quality. It's about the craftsmanship that goes into it, the level of materials. And it's about design as well. I think when people buy into luxury, they want to buy into something new from a design perspective, not something that, they've seen everywhere all the time. But I do think that in the past, people have associated luxury with price point. And I think that's the part that even I go back and forth on. Our prices now are about, like 20% less than traditional luxury. And we're, able to do that 20 to 30% less. But we're made in the exact same factories as these top luxury brands. So we've talked about like new luxury. Is this new luxury? What is new luxury? Is that a new category? But for me, it's about the quality. It's about and it's about original design.
The luxury goods market is fairly locked up by families, Italian families, different families, French families, like just families that have been like, hey, this is, you got to value it, right? It's not, you have to value every part of making the product. You have to value the loyalty and the camaraderie and the energy and the vibe of the family and the legacy of it. So I'm interested in like, how in the world, I know you mentioned that your teacher, former teacher, was a pattern making at one of the factories. So that's breaking into the factories, but they had to get wind of you coming.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, actually, in the beginning, they used to, when other client would come, they used to hide my shoes. Because I think that those designers always know that there are other up and coming designers, in that factory, but that they don't want to see it. So they used to sort of hide the shoes. So it is, it's definitely a sort of a competitive world, but I think, what you're getting at is how do you sort of build a luxury brand without heritage, right? That seems to be such a, part of it. And I think we were talking about, what does it take to be a luxury brand? And one of the things I didn't mention was, I think, sort of a factor of scarcity and prestige is another piece of it. Whether it's having the right celebrities wearing your shoes or tastemakers, and just a feeling that not everyone can have that product. I think one of the big moments for the brand was when we, made this transition to direct to consumer, and we had we sold out of things really, really quickly, and we had crazy wait lists for the shoes. And I think that honestly, at the time I was freaking out and thinking, oh God, we're never going to be able to, we've got to get these shoes in. How are we going to fill these like massive wait lists? But I think it was actually a good thing for the brand because it did create that sort of scarcity and prestige that does exist within luxury.
And that scarcity model is a business model.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And yeah, so the idea, 100%. I mean, the idea of like drops and, short runs, pop-ups, that scarcity model absolutely does work in business in general, and definitely in luxury goods. So you got to be like, got to have your finger on the trigger. You got to be ready to go. You get the email, you like buying right then and things are selling out. But like you said, from a founder perspective, it could feel like a little bit of a nightmare at first.
Yeah, at first it's kind of like, I feel like I'm missing revenue. I should be.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say that. How do investors, do they get it? Like, do the investors get oh, this is the scarcity model. It works this way. Like, has that been easy to talk to your board about or really have people understand?
People who understand fashion and businesses with inventory get it. Also because inventory is such a challenge for, consumer brands that make physical goods, and any investor's worst nightmare is in excess of inventory. So the smart ones, they get it, and they know that that's a good thing, and that they get excited about it.
During the pandemic, while like most people were facing like supply chain issues and still facing supply chain issues, what have you been seeing in terms of like supply chain issues, in terms of like shipping and things like that because of COVID, but also materials, as we think about like what is happening to our available materials, the organic pieces of materials as well. Like, what are you seeing?
So we produce primarily in the Lombardy region of Italy. So just where you want to be at the beginning of the pandemic. And so that was really scary because, all of our partners that over there that are producing were, they closed the factories for a while and all of that. We were, it happened to be at a time where we had just had huge, product shipments. So we were okay on inventory in terms of what we needed to sell. But I think that the biggest challenge and change for us has been pricing increases, because there is that product, but it is way more expensive to make. I mean, insanely more expensive to make, whether it's because of, there's a whole lot of factors. The energy crisis is a huge one. Now with, a war in Ukraine, it costs a whole lot more to heat the factory, to run the factory, to get those machines going. And then, of course, there's also, new measures with social distancing. There's, less people working at once. So the output of the factory is a little bit slower than it used to be. And then the final issue was during peak COVID, it was hard to get product to the US because the shipping was a lot of times they'll actually put inventory and freight forwarders will actually use like commercial means of getting product over. So when you're on an American Airlines flight, there's often, a lot of commercial inventory under that flight. There weren't flights going back and forth. And so that was definitely a challenge. Of course, there wasn't a huge amount of needs for high heels during that period, given that we were all in our slippers and sneakers most of the time. But we, as a company, really had to think about pivoting what our product mix was, really focusing more on flats, we launched slippers, which were a huge hit during COVID. We launched silk scarves, which, in a world where you're very focused on the Zoom screen, it was kind of a great addition to people's wardrobes and way to dress up an outfit.
Yeah, awesome. So wait, are the slippers still available?
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Okay, I gotta go and look because I must have missed that.
See this, but I'm wearing them right now, and
nice.
They're shearling lined.
They can see if they watch the video version of the show, which will air
good.
on the Monday after this airs. Wow. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Okay, I have a question for you as a woman business owner, or just a business owner, because why we got to put gender on it? As a business owner, what has been your biggest sacrifice and what has been your biggest win?
Oh gosh. Okay, this is a really hard one. I don't know if this is as a woman or just as a business owner in general. I think you sacrifice a huge portion of your social life. I'm sure you feel this way too whenever you're starting something. So much of my life is around work, and I love my work. Love my work. So I'm really happy about that. But every once in a while, I think, particularly in the beginning when I was in my early 20s and, starting this, there were a lot of things I wasn't doing that my friends were doing. And that was hard, I think, definitely. And my biggest win, it's so hard. There's so many different kinds of wins along the way, but for me, at my heart, I'm a product person. And so the biggest win for me and the thing that like gets me every time is when I get to spend time with customers and I meet women who have, transitioned their whole closet to Sarah Flint because, they love the shoes so much. Or I find those customers that are just, they repeat purchase again and again and again and again because they love the product. Or when something sells out, like a new product that's very editorial. We just launched this boot called the Lena, which has, it's very expensive. It's like $1,300 and it's has these tassel details on it and all of these covered buttons all up and down. And I thought, okay, this is a very specific shoe. I don't know how it's going to do. And within the first weekend, we pretty much sold out. And that was just so incredibly gratifying.
Is it the green one? Do they come in green?
Yes, it's the green one.
These are the ones I was looking at.
Yeah.
Because
we'll talk after. Maybe I can find you a pair.
Okay. Because what happens is like the cute boots like that.
Yeah.
They're the toe of them is so skinny
Yeah.
that you end up like you were talking about getting things toe, like the toe stretch. You
Yeah.
end up like in this, like your toes are just like, help me,
Yes.
help me.
These are not, they're really good.
And so when I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get those. These are the
Yeah.
ones I've been staring at. So if you do have an extra pair down in the factory somewhere,
Yeah.
please
We
let
will
me know.
talk.
Okay. Because I was looking at them like, yes, these are the ones.
Yeah.
Those, and there's a pair of these stiletto heels that I was looking at too. They have the little rhinestones on the toe. I was looking at those too, just because I need some basic, not that they're basic in design, but I need my everyday. I'm about to go on stage. I'm throwing on a pump. I need to go because we're at that place again now.
Yeah.
Where I'm back on stages. Now we're traveling again. Now we're speaking again, those kinds of things. And so I'm excited to rock women-owned brands.
Yeah.
Most of my
Absolutely.
dresses are an African designer I call Hanifa. And so I usually wear a lot of their stuff. So I like to find, and the comfort is everything for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest thing is like, you don't look confident when you're uncomfortable, right? It shows on your face, it shows in your posture, everything. So it's so important, when you're doing things like that, you want to be feeling, powerful and comfortable.
You know what? You should tweet that. You don't look comfortable.
You don't look powerful if
You
you're
don't look powerful if you're
You just
uncomfortable.
look
There you go.
uncomfortable. And nobody's thinking it's about your shoes or about your dress. They're thinking it's about the fact that you're, not comfortable in what you're doing. And of course you are, because you're amazing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
When you look good, you feel good.
Exactly.
And so you want to make sure
And that's the thing about shoes too, for me, I think. And, I know some people it's bags, some people it's different things, but I always found that when I had like a pair of shoes that I was super excited about, my whole posture would change and I would just feel like, yeah, look at me. Like I'm so confident in these shoes.
No, I think that's right. And so like from tennis shoes, like for me, I can't say I'm like a super sneakerhead, but it does not matter what I have on. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could be wearing a sweatsuit. It's like, but look at your shoes, like, oh my God, your shoes are so cute, and now your whole body just became amazing. Like, I totally agree with you that like what's on your feet is what you feel.
Yep.
All right. So the way your feet feel is how you feel. So you want to make sure, look, we got all type of statement tees today. That should be on a t-shirt, right? Like that's the Sarah Flint t-shirt. How your feet feel is how you feel.
Yeah.
So, I love that. And these beautiful scarves. So everybody, if you listen to the show, you'll have to go and watch the video show to see. So if you go to omisworld.com, you'll be able to click to watch the video show. And so you got to go and see when we're on camera, because now we've seen the slippers that you got to go and get. And now we see this beautiful, because this is one of the scarves too.
This is one of our scarves. This is from our Austrian collection. It's actually inspired by the ceiling of,
you disappeared. Look at that. That was a magic trick.
Let's see. Hold on.
So for y'all listening, we have Sarah has a background filter on, like on the video, on the camera, and so it hid the whole thing.
It hid the whole thing. But it's inspired by the ceiling of the Vienna Opera House.
Wow.
One of my favorite ways to get inspiration for a collection is travel, which was so hard during COVID, not being able to travel, but I did get to Vienna last fall, which was incredible.
So what's your favorite places to get inspiration from?
Definitely. I mean, I've done so many different collections. Lisbon was a really amazing one just because there's so much print and pattern there. And I love all print and pattern. But my spring collection, to give you a little sneak peek, is actually fairy tale inspired.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me get my bank account ready. Because so I love fairies. I'm big on fairies. I have a fairy tattoo on the inside of my arm. I also love hot air balloons. I'm gonna retire as a hot air balloon owner one day. But And so I'm super hyped to see what this is going to be like.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's very like not your traditional, it's sort of like a mix between, many different, fairy tale, woodland tales pulled together. And the scarves are amazing.
So where did you get inspiration for this?
So like you, I've always been kind of a fairy person. Like when I was little, I used to make fairy houses out of moss and flowers from my mother's garden and all of that kind of thing. And I'd worked with this one artist in the past named Sukarita, who is actually based out of India. And I was looking at her work, and everything, her work is just, it's all sort of, it has very, very fairy tale vibes. And so we ended up collaborating with her on the scarves, and it kind of all went from there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it. So I can't wait. Yeah. I cannot wait. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. One, it's good to just catch up. And then two, it's good to hear your story. And I'm sure like our listeners have just learned so much. And like, definitely go to sarahflint.com and check out the shoes and get you 2 pair because you're going to need to replace some of those shoes that are hurting your feet right now. Great quality. And I really love the energy of going into the pop-up store and trying the shoes on. I will say that is an experience. Your team was so great and so gracious, and I loved it. And so I'm excited to continue shopping with you. I want to know, who are some of the celebrities that are fans?
Well, I just went to this week. I went to the CFDA Awards with Rachel Brosnahan, who is Mrs. Maisel. I don't know if you watch that show, but it's one of my favorites. We've had everyone from like Lady Gaga and Amal Clooney to, Blake Lively, Kate Hudson, Meghan Markle, all different sort of celebs, which has been really exciting. Cindy Crawford, who's one of our investors.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you on all of your success, and congratulations for building a brand that deeply cares about us and our feet. Okay. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for joining me. Thank y'all all for listening. You've been listening to the Omi Show. Remember, every Sunday we'll be right here at noon at Sirius XM Urban View Channel 126. Don't be a stranger, be a guest. Email us at hello@omisworld.com. That's hello@omisworld.com. We will see y'all next Sunday right here.